this is Call of Duty 3. We're on Xbox Series X, so the game does get a slight resolution boost, a smoothed out 60 FPS that was already existing, and auto HDR support, so it does look a little bit better than it's ever looked. So obviously this is a very interesting entry in the series, the third main release, and actually one of my favorite games. So this actually got me into the Call of Duty series. I wasn't necessarily, I was just kind of starting out with gaming. I had just gotten my first like $50 bill, which is like a big red bill in Canada. And then my mother suggested at Best Buy that the game was on sale for that amount, so I went and I bought it. And yeah, I've been playing Call of Duty games ever since. I absolutely loved the multiplayer component of the game, and I'm hoping that we can show that off a little bit later as well, since it is, still kind of active enough that I can find other players. So anyways, it has a really gripping sort of narrative-driven campaign where you're going through some intense segments of, World War II, basically. And yeah, it's just kind of really epic in scale. It's got a great campaign where you get to visit so many unique areas. And while it's linear in scope, the idea of the game is that it does give you a little bit of freedom within the environments. It actually does have some really epic character moments too throughout the experience, which is really quite fascinating because you get to see, unique perspectives within the war. There's different difficulties too. But I say unique perspectives in that it's not necessarily just all of like one character. You get to see multiple different, sort of situations across different fronts. Which I guess if you've played the Call of Duty games, you should kind of be used to that for the different games. But in this one, it's just really interesting what they did with it and the style of play that was present. I just really quite liked it. Always getting different missions, seeing different parts of the war. And at the time, it was a very, very detailed game. And obviously, that changed quite a bit once the Call of Duty games kind of kept progressing and changing over time. But I still remember this one being just so epic in regards to, not only being able to be infantry, but also like the huge vehicle combat that was at play. It was kind of a big deal, really, quite honestly, at the time. And it's just weird that the series hasn't, it still kind of embraces it a little bit more nowadays than it used to, but for many years the vehicles were just out of Call of Duty. They weren't included. So it's kind of neat to go back here to see like the earlier days where it was like, yeah, vehicle warfare was awesome and big, and yeah, it's just very interesting. And it still has a focus on that kind of like heavier cinematic play, especially stuff like this, but it's definitely a little bit different than the cinematic style. I love these parts, they're always funny. Than the cinematic style that we kind of get in today's games. It definitely has the cinematic segments, but it just kind of presents them a little bit more viciously, I guess. I don't know. It was definitely still like a very graphic and detailed and brutal sort of experience, but I certainly had a blast playing it. Definitely one of my most memorable experiences from like way back in the day was jumping into Call of Duty 3. I really do love this title. I still think the gun kind of like models and stuff look fantastic. But when we look into the environments, it's still a little kind of fuzzy around the edges. What am I getting shot by? Is there a bad guy up there? It's kind of funny, but yeah, it's just like some little kind of visual hitches here or there in regards to like the edges of things being a little jagged, but still it looks a little bit more cleaned up than it did on the One X, which is nice, because I thought it also looked pretty decent there. But yeah, it's definitely still a pretty good looking experience. I'm happy to see it still kind of looking like this, which is nice. Yeah, then we're going to get into this intense tank segment here, kind of fending off against turrets and that. This is just kind of the opening of the game too. I remember this being so like insanely like visceral right off the bat. I was like, what? I definitely didn't expect it at this time, or at the time. And then you jump into the multiplayer, and I was just kind of really taken by what it had to offer. And you go to play Modern Warfare the year after this, and it's like, what is going on here? Oh yeah, we're supposed to hold binoculars. My bad. There we go. Blow it up. Come on, get with it. Look at this intense action, huge combat, boom, boom. The environments are like pretty detailed for the time. I gotta say, this was still a really, really good looking and epic sort of game. And I think there's like a lot of smoke and particle driven things too. Come on, tank, get over there and blow that up. Jeez, were we just like waiting and chilling here? We gotta cause some mayhem, alright? Look at that destruction. Oh wow, Battlefield better watch out. Yeah, absolutely wild. But now we're gonna hopefully switch over to the multiplayer component to show a little bit of that in action. So this is the multiplayer component of the game. I'm hosting an online game, maybe somebody will jump in. There are actually a lot of active lobbies present, and you're probably wondering, why don't you join those active lobbies? And the truth is, I can't seem to connect to any of them. I get some kind of weird hosting issue, and I keep trying to fix it, but I never seem to be able to, which is a little disheartening because I absolutely loved the multiplayer on this back in the day. Huge fan of being a medic. You know, I'd go around reviving people, popping smoke, reviving people in front of tanks so they could get blown up. But yeah, this had really memorable and great multiplayer maps, some of my all-time favorites. And they're kind of, I guess, I don't know, a little bit simple today, but they're still so well done. So in the game you also have different kits that you can kind of choose from, all these different characters. They got unique designs and different roles. Definitely cool. I guess maybe a bit of a precursor for like class-based gameplay, which was really just going to kick into high gear with the title that followed this, Modern Warfare, obviously. But yeah, still a really, really great time, and I remember having so many great moments on these maps, and it's excellent that people are still, you know, playing them today. I think that's fantastic, and it just really hurts that I'm not able to seemingly connect to any of them. And then yeah, you get the picturesque, literally picturesque backdrops on these maps. Definitely not at the detailed level that we're used to now. But this is War, so there's a lot of different kind of game modes that you can do. War is just kind of a really neat momentum-based game where you're pushing to different positions. So you're basically like, you're trying to capture the flag here by holding on to it. Others will come in and attack you, try to defend, and you're kind of getting momentum building back and forth as you're trying to win the game by basically capturing all of the points and stuff like that, or the time limit, and battling against one another. It was just really quite a memorable experience. I had so many fun times on this one, whether you were like driving tanks, driving jeeps, driving the, I don't know what the other things are called, but like the side-by-side little cars and stuff. Those are always kind of entertaining. But yeah, it just was a really cool multiplayer. You jump onto like Elder Dam, and you know, they got all these cool, great maps and so many iconic locations and stuff. It was kind of a treat. I really did have so many neat memories going in this one and playing for hours on end, battling other people online, trying to level up. It was some of the most memorable multiplayer I've ever had, because it was some of my early multiplayer days was spent, you know, playing this. I mean, it still looks pretty good. I mean, obviously the environments are aged and it's not at the intense quality that you're probably used to, but for me this is still such a well done experience and such a fun time. You know, so many unique levels to play, and then I think they did some early DLC on this one too. Like, I say early DLC as in DLC was just kicking off, and I think they added some like maps and stuff, and it was kind of a big deal. I think there's like a Champs map pack or something. It was pretty cool, you know, just jumping in there, seeing all of that old content, having a great time with it. I think that's really what made this so memorable for me, was the fact that it was an intense shooter, and it was one of the first shooters that I had played in a competitive sense. I mean, I was playing Halo 2 a lot back then as well, but you know, this one kind of really got things cooking, and then you see so many different multiplayer games over the years, and yeah, it's just kind of interesting and still delightful to jump into this one to explore it. Yeah, me against that other individual, which is such a shame. But I will quit to the menu so you can actually see, you know, that we have lots of different games present. And then I always get the same cannot connect to host error, and it's just breaks the heart, you know. It's just really disappointing because I want to jump in and have fun with other people in this one, because there's still crazily enough, other people are still playing this. That's what gets me, and it's hard to basically get others to join into yours, right? Because they've got their own maps set up and stuff. But we'll jump into another map just to show off a little bit more of the gameplay and style. maybe be a rifleman. Yeah, a bunch of different classes and different things you could do. Oh yeah, I love this map too. The very strict lane setup I thought was very interesting on this. And so many neat ways to kind of like camp and hold positions. I really maybe should have set up some matches. Well, I mean, it'd be pretty hard to get other people to jump into this classic at this point. But yeah, I remember just like lying down over there in the bushes and kind of, I guess you could say, fending off individuals that were coming as we try to capture the flag and stuff. And I mean, some people were just there to shoot and battle and get points, but I was seriously playing the objectives and trying to be a good medic and healing others and saving lives. Oh yeah, I also like the kind of blur perspective thing was kind of cool too on the guns. Very, very well done weapon detail here. And lots of fun noises too for the characters. Rifle grenade. Yeah, that's a pretty cool smoke effect. I love how fluid it all is. If you can jump in, like if you have interest in jumping into this one, and you have the ability to play online with other people, I definitely suggest doing so because it's an absolute riot. And I think it still holds up today in regards to just being like a cool, classic arcadey take on like a World War shooter. At the time, it was very mature and very serious, but nowadays it's like, yeah, it's not quite like that, but it's still something that can be kind of brutal. There's a cool castle level too. I think it's a castle level, but yeah, I have so many fond memories of playing the multiplayer and playing this game in general. It is one of my favorites from a very earlier time in my gaming career. I guess I just kind of built up from there, and yeah, it's wild to be taking a look at this game again and kind of seeing it in action. It still looks kind of lovely, at least I think so. I don't know, might not be for everyone, but I do definitely and certainly love this title.